we be thinking about
Yeah.
governance? What's the right understanding of governance?
Yeah. I'm actually glad you raised, if you want, the two words together, governance and government,
Yeah.
because often people assume one is the other. And we were joking earlier, I was saying often when I say I'm working in governance, they start asking me political questions because they assume I'm really into politics, which I really am not. And politics is certainly part of governance. But we actually used to say governance is not just government.
Okay.
And that's quite important because for us, generally, what governance refers to is a whole system about how decisions are made. And governance very much has to do with that sort of a system. But decisions are not just made by a government. Obviously, we tend to look at a government, maybe a political authority, as having a particular power over people, and we believe by voting in a government and having an administration that we cede a lot of the national decision making to that system. But obviously, there are decisions that get made from the level of the household to industry. So we can talk about corporate governance, we can talk about household governance, however various of us are having it. We can talk about civic leadership and civic governance. And so we would often see a governance system as not just being about what a government does. That is part of governance, but governance is about these broader systems of how decisions are made and how we agree to operate in a particular kind of space. So that's probably the broadest definition.
Okay.
So if we're going to talk about tech governance, for example, obviously it's not only by the regulator because there are all sorts of other actors who are making decisions about tech.
So is it philosophy?
Well, there's a philosophy to governance. So I think philosophy would underpin governance. Philosophy would tell us how decisions are made or maybe why decisions are made in particular ways. But I think philosophy would maybe be too broad because philosophy is a whole kind of ways of understanding or perceiving things or explaining things. I think governance is much more related to the act of decision making.
But it's underpinned by philosophy.
It's, of course, yeah. So there would be philosophy underpinning governance, yes.
Do you go through a process of picking philosophies, or how does that work?
I'm not sure that we all do purposely. Like, I'm not sure we are all always conscious about how we pick our philosophies or our ideologies for that matter. But generally there are. And so you'll talk about what's our corporate philosophy or what is our national, how do we do things? How do we think about things? And so you'll have countries that have a leaning towards being more, I don't know, more democratic, more inclusive, more participatory. I guess there's a particular philosophy underpinning that. Maybe just being more socially oriented. Ones that believe more in, I don't know, liberty and freedom, personal freedoms more than others. So yeah, I think philosophies and ideologies will sometimes be explicit, but very often are quite implicit. I don't know if everybody thinks about what's my philosophy
No.
when I'm raising my kids in a particular way, or when I show up in my community in a particular way. I might not always talk about, what's my philosophy on knowledge, what's my philosophy on being, but obviously those underpin. So if I'm somebody who's quite relational and quite conscious about environment and about the space around me, then I'll act in particular ways. I may not consciously be asking myself what philosophies I'm applying to act in those ways.
That is a bit scary, though. So we could carry a government that has governance with philosophies that were not generally spoken of or thought of. They've just carried because of culture, because of history, and they just go through time, and we end up having legislation, regulation, off.
Yeah, and you've mentioned two big ones. I mean, culture and history. So with history, we often talk about path dependence, that there are things that have happened in the past that have set a certain course. And often there's inertia. You just continue doing things the way things have been done around here. Very often, when I went into government, for example, it became very clear to me that there are many people who just do things because that's the way we've been doing things, and that's the way we do things in this department, which becomes culture. and behavior, but in fact, there are historical reasons, whether it is precedents in the way budgets were set, or a history of how this department was seen, or how this sector has tended to act, or what the power of this sector is relative to others. And those things have a lot to do with how decisions are made, but it's not always something people are very conscious of. I don't think people show up to work every day asking, why are we doing this thing this way? And that's, I guess, what culture is. You just kind of roll with it. You just do things because maybe that's how you found things being done there.